Entitled Parents says leave a like now. It's free. Now enjoy. I was called cheap because I lost my virginity and entitled mom couldn't handle it. I got slut shamed and made to feel like trash by Mormon fiance's mom. It's important to note that I'm 30 now, so this happened when I was still in high school. So I met this guy when I was 16, and we started dating. Fast forward 2 years and we are both out of high school and engaged. Looking back on it, an 18-year-old has no business being engaged. Anyway, my then fiance had been raised Mormon and wanted me to convert to the religion as that was what is expected by me and everyone in his big Mormon family. So I went through all the lessons and got baptized in the church. That part is important. His family was Air Force and so they moved around a lot. So shortly after he proposed, his family moved to Colorado, so the relationship became long distance. That summer when he came to visit, things got hot and heavy and we ended up losing our virginity to each other. I had been raised to save myself for marriage and figured since I was engaged to this guy, who at the time was the love of my life, it was basically the same thing. Big mistake. So a few days later, he gets typical Mormon guilt and decides to tell both his parents and his bishop at church. Next thing I know, my mom gets a call from fiance's mother telling her that I am no longer welcome at their home. When my mom asked why, she was told that Jezebels and harlots aren't welcome in their house of the Lord, because my son would have never been tempted or agreed to any of this if your daughter wasn't such a temptress. At this point my mom goes off on her, telling her that she hates to break it to her, but it takes two to tango and she might want to have a conversation with her son as he was more than capable of making that decision on his own as we are both 18. His mother then hangs up in my mom's face and for the next 2 weeks, proceeds to make a point to call our house at least twice a day, leaving messages on our answering machine about how much of a SLT I am, how God hates me and I should be ashamed of myself. At this point, I honestly had no experience in handling any of this and would be reduced to tears on the daily. From a religious perspective, I understand the value of chastity before marriage, but when you resort to acts of harassment and slander is beyond my comprehension even to this day. You might be asking what consequences befell my fiance during all of this. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. He told his parents and they forgave him and told him that he was a victim and not responsible. His bishop, the Mormon equivalent of a pastor, told him to ask God for forgiveness and read his scriptures daily. To make matters worse, his mother decides to make a phone call to the bishop at my church and tell him everything that happened. Next thing I know, I'm getting pulled into his office and told that my sin was second only to murder and that God and his grace have abandoned me. I was beside myself in tears. Furthermore, I was told that I was no longer allowed to teach Sunday school, and I wasn't permitted to sit with anyone during the sermon. That's right, I was made to sit by myself and separate from everyone just to drive the point home that I wasn't worthy to sit with everyone else. The whole experience was absolutely horrific and caused me a lot of trauma that I had to work through as a result. His mother still maintains to this day that I am the worst person on the face of the planet and that her son is a sin. Needless to say, we broke off our engagement and went our separate ways. Update on aftermath. After I stopped going to sacrament or the ward in general, the Mormon missionaries would routinely sit outside my house waiting for either me or my mom to get home. When I moved to a new city, they continued to sit outside my mom's house to ask me where I was. Somehow they found out where I had moved, transferred my records to that ward and the harassment continued. It took 5 years and a cease and desist letter from a lawyer to get them to leave me alone and remove my name from church records. I'm not religious at all anymore. You don't have to have religion to be a good person. And truth be told, those that claim religion tend to be the worst garbage people I've ever met. They hide behind theology as a justification for treating people like shit. So yeah, after going to massive amounts of therapy to reprogram my brain out of thinking I was nothing but trash, I left all organized religion and never looked back. Since then, now at 30, I have spent every day since then rebuilding everything that he broke, and I refuse to ever be treated like that by anyone ever again. EK enters my apartment without permission, starts playing on my laptop, and when I tell him to leave he calls me a N-word. Bruh, This happened like 2 weeks ago, and I'm still fuming about it. My laptop is a Lenovo 500G, and I have put a new SSD on it and now it works very well. I can play Fortnite now without any lag. I was home alone, and was playing Minecraft because I love that game, and I hear a knock on the door. It was my neighbor's kid. This kid is a spoiled brat and I hate him with every inch of my being. Not a lot of inches because I'm 5'4". His parents don't discipline him at all. He just entered my house when I opened the door to see who was there and immediately went to my laptop. He started playing on it. I told him to leave. Now, he says, "Mommy said that I can play on your laptop, so let me play." Nibba. I am white. My skin is tanned. I look more like a Spanish dude. I am not black. Why did he call me a nibba? I am not racist at all. I have online friends from all the world, and some of them aren't white but I don't care because they are nice. But this kid is a racist, spoiled piece of shit, so I had enough. I said, "Leave my house, now, or I will call the cops." He starts screaming and I just picked him up and got him out. I locked the door immediately, and he starts banging on my door. After a few minutes, the banging stops and I hear his mother yelling at me to open the door. I just told her that if she doesn't go away, I will take a bat and beat the shit out of her. I scared her, so she ran back to her apartment, child in tow. They moved out and I'm happy about it. I hope I never see them again. Entitled Mother left her kids in my cafe while she got Botox next door. I work at a popular cafe in a very wealthy area of town that is next door to a medical spa that does things like lip injections and Botox. 2 children walked into my store unattended. I thought their parents must be somewhere inside or still in the car. Maybe they were being dropped off to meet a tutor? I wasn't sure. There was a boy who was about 8 and a girl who was about 5. It became very apparent that their mom and dad were not in my cafe as they began running around the lobby together, dragging chairs across the floor, knocking items off displays, digging their hands into the sweeteners at the condiment bar, etc. Eventually the pair came up and sat at one of 3 bar stools at the end of my bar as I was making drinks. They started asking me for hot chocolates. I told them if their mommy or daddy bought them a hot chocolate then I would be happy to make them one. As if on cue, the little girl started screeching at the top of her lungs and the little boy began pounding his hands on the countertop and yelling that their mom promised them a hot chocolate and that I had to make them one because she told them I would. The little girl started crying and trying to stand on the bar stools. I told her to sit down before she hurt herself. I asked who they were with and the boy said his mom brought them. I asked where she was and they told me they didn't know. I told them to sit down and sent my co-worker to ask around to see if she could find their mother. I continued making drinks and the boy kept shouting at me and demanding hot chocolates. His sister was a blubbering, crying mess who would alternate between sobbing hiccups and flat out screaming. This woman who was waiting for her drink told the kids to be quiet and also asked where their mom was. The little girl said something like getting her face done and the woman said I'll be right back. This woman straight up marched into the mid-spa and, according to an employee there that I know, apparently chewed out this mother and berated her in the middle of the appointment for leaving her kids in my cafe. The EM put up a fight about it, so the customer came back in the store and called the police in front of me. Meanwhile, both kids are now standing on the bar stools screaming about hot chocolate, even if they weren't brats and I felt like giving them hot chocolate for free. I can't do that without parents present. The police showed up just in time to see the 8-year-old boy fall off the bar stool and bust his lip open. One officer went next door and forced the mother out mid-appointment and brought her into the cafe and she immediately started screaming at the first woman for calling the police, and then at me and my co-worker for letting her son get hurt. The second officer went off on the EM who said she felt she was in the right because I wouldn't be gone long and I didn't leave them unattended. There are employees here to watch them. Snitch, I am not getting paid to watch your kids. I'm getting paid to serve coffee. The little girl kept crying about hot chocolate and the mom was like, wait, you didn't give them hot cocoa? And I was like, no, you have to pay for that. And I can't give kids drinks without parents' permission. What if one of them had an allergy or was diabetic or something and she started screaming about how she shouldn't have to pay because they are children and we should have just been nice. The officers eventually made her stop and took her outside. I saw them writing something out. but I don't know if it was a ticket. I'm not sure what happened after that because I decided to take my lunch and went out the back door to avoid her.